Get started. I would like to welcome everyone today. I am President Irene Bustamante Adams and call this work session of June 4, 2025 to order. The time is 4:01. I would like to remind everyone to silence your electronic devices. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the territorial homeland of the Nuwu, the Moapa Band of Paiutes, and the Las Vegas Band of Paiutes. Opening up with item 1.02, the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Dominguez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Before I open item 1.02, is there anyone that did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? If not, please do so now. Seeing none, then that is closed. Trustee Zamora, will you make a motion to approve the agenda?
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I would like to make a motion to adopt a flexible agenda with the following changes. Reference material and additional reference material has been provided for item 2.02, trustee community engagement meeting proposals.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Trustee Biasotti?
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Will you please cast your vote? That motion passes 7-0. Before I move on to the other trustee business item, I would like to just make a statement. I have consulted with our board legal counsel that I do not have a conflict of interest for item 2.01, but in the abundance of caution, I am going to hand over item 2.01 to our Vice President Zamora, and I will remove myself from the dais and asking any questions. So, Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I open item 2.01, is there anyone who did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? No, we're good. So now, team, you all received an email with some questions to ask. The questions have been assigned. We decided to do this way so we can be very transparent and public about this item. The intent is to have more of a dialogue and deliberation in a public meeting setting. So now we will actually start our interview process with Mr. Parker and team, or just Mr. Parker. We would ask for you to come up. Hello, hello. Whichever one. Oh.
The one you were sitting there before.
Mr. Parker, welcome. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you all. So I'm going to go over real quick kind of what this will look like in the flow. Mr. Parker will actually have 2 minutes to do an introduction. Then we will start with our trustees and their questions, and then we will pass it back to you for a closing statement. And trustees, we will then have a discussion, public comment, and motion after that. Any questions from board members? Good. Perfect. Mr. Parker, ready when you are.
There we go. That better? All right. My voice normally carries, so sometimes I find myself not using this as often as I should. Let's see, how should I begin? I'm assuming that everyone saw the RFP response. so I won't regurgitate everything that's there. I won't waste your time. I know your time is valuable. Is that better? Is that better? There we go. So I've been doing this for a long time, but not perhaps for the school district, other than maybe a year or two ago, the school district asked that I get involved in helping to create new contracts for your construction projects under your former general counsel, Mr. Pushnik. And I did that. I think I met some of you prior to being engaged for that purpose. But I've represented several of your agencies here, public agencies and quasi-public agencies here in the state. I represented the City of Las Vegas Housing Authority, the City of North Las Vegas Housing Authority, City of North Las Vegas Library District. I've represented UMC since 2003, the Health District since 2018 or 19, the Workforce Connections, which Ms. Bustamante has spoken of, Bustamante Adams has spoken of, since 2014. In Clark County, I've been on Clark County's approved panel of attorneys for many years. In terms of SEIU, which I know you, of course, bargain with, I've just recently completed the Clark County SEIU negotiations within the last 30 days. Less than a year ago, I did it on behalf of the Health District, and less than a year ago, I did it for Clark County, for the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. So I have I would say, a tremendous amount of experience with doing negotiations with CBA modifications or renewals with SEIU. In terms of open meetings law, and I'm just delving into some of the questions that were there, so perhaps that'll save some time. I've been working with or dealing with the Attorney General's office on open meeting laws since 1996. I represented the Economic Opportunity Board of Clark County when it was very large back in the mid-90s, and I've been doing it ever since. So when it comes to open meeting laws, although no one knows every page and every verse, we keep up with it. We keep up with the Attorney General opinions as they come out. And if there's ever a question, everyone's familiar. I'm sure Mr. Okazaki is very familiar with. There's a call. There's a call you can make to the Attorney General's office. There's someone who rotates on every week. But typically, you just got to keep up with the Attorney General's office, and you have to keep up, of course, with NRS 241, which we do. Let's see. I had an example, and maybe this will bring it to everyone's mind in terms of the difference between general counsel and board counsel. I had this case. We have a South Carolina office, and I represented a general contractor against the school board there. And during the litigation, which was a very large case, I deposed 3 of the trustees, the chair of the school board and 2 of the other trustees of the school board. And during that deposition, it came to light that, not that this would ever happen here, but that the staff was not informing the school board trustee. And during that litigation, I found an email. This is horrible to say, but I'll just say it because I think it sets the tone for this discussion. I found an email where the one trustee was saying to another trustee, if it would be available to that other trustee, could you give me a ride to the next board meeting? And in the email it said, and I don't want to go there with any of the darkies, there were a couple of African Americans on the board, black board members on the board. And the litigation involved a black general contractor, the only one that had a new project construction ever. And when we got into the litigation, we discovered that none of the trustees, except for a couple, had ever been informed of what was going on in this project. We tried to resolve this case for what I would consider a very reasonable amount. The school board ended up spending almost as much in attorney's fees than it was to settle the case. And the trustees never knew until the verdict came out from the panel of arbitrators. My point is, there's a reason for board counsel. The board has a right to be just as informed as the staff, because ultimately it falls on your shoulders. The staff can make mistakes, but you people will be on the front page of the newspaper. And that was the largest verdict I think that school district had suffered, but it could have been avoided. The trustees could have intervened and could have resolved it. One of the other things I found out during that litigation is that the staff retained experts and I don't want to say in cahoots, that's probably too strong. But during the open meeting discussions, they were just giving half the story. Trustees, I believe, are entitled to the full story. You're entitled to know what's going on with this school board so that you can make informed decisions. And so in preparation for this meeting, and hopefully I'm not going too long for you, I looked up just to see how many pieces of litigation this board has right now. And the Board of Trustees is named in a lot of these litigated claims. And so you have 9 right now in state court and 8 judicial district court, and I believe 3 in the federal court system. And so I'm assuming, because I know John very well, and he's a very good lawyer, that you're getting all the information you need. But it never hurts to have a second set of eyes looking over this for the benefit of the trustee. So this is not in any way a criticism or a concern, because I believe, like I said before, I've known Mr. Okazaki for a long time. He's a very competent lawyer. But I believe it's important that you have your own attorney. So hopefully that gives you some information and background on me and my firm. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
You're
No, I think we're ready, our members. Members, as a reminder, we have 3 minutes for your first question. We will do 1 round, and then from there, we will go into a second round with any follow-up questions you all might have. And I will actually be starting with the first question.
Sure.
Okay, ensuring that the board complies with the Nevada open meeting law is a primary responsibility of this position. What is the definition of the term meeting as used in Nevada's open meeting law?
So that's easy. So 241 spells out what the definition is. We all know what the definition is. We can read it. And so I think the big thing, the big takeaway is no one has a right to circumvent the open meeting process. The public is entitled to know. So with rare exceptions, a meeting requires you to comply with 241. So if you don't have a quorum, obviously that's not a meeting. If you have a quorum, then typically it's supposed to be in front of the public, supposed to do what you're supposed to do in terms of the Attorney General's office. I believe these are recorded, as they should be. You have minutes. All of those things are a part of the open meetings law. There are certain requirements in terms of posting. Of course, you're aware of that. You have to do it at a certain time in advance of the meeting. You have to have the agenda out there. So to me, what I always tell my public and quasi-public clients, that if there's something being done on behalf of this board, it has to be in the open meeting, even if it includes standing committees, ad hoc committees. If they're making even recommendations because of recent Attorney General opinions, those have to happen in the meeting setting. There's exceptions, of course. When you're getting advice on negotiations and litigated matters, those aren't subject to the open meeting. So if I'm meeting with you to discuss what's going on with litigation, then that's not subject to the open meetings law. If we're giving you updates on negotiations with the SEIU, there's a particular exception to that. So other than certain exceptions that are provided for under 241 1.1, I think 0.115, everything else would be subject to the open meetings law.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Describe the difference between a closed meeting and an exempt gathering of trustees under Nevada's open meeting law.
You said a ghost?
To describe the difference, between a closed meeting and an
Closed.
exempt
Okay.
gathering,
Sure. So I actually tried to cover that with Vice President Zamora. A closed meeting, like one I described earlier when I'm giving the board advice or an update on litigation, that's a closed meeting. It's not subject to the open meetings law. It doesn't have to be posted. I could call you and say, let's all get together so I can give you an update. That's a closed meeting. Or if we were in meetings and we wanted to take a closed period during this meeting, we could step out and have a briefing on SEIU negotiations. That would be considered a closed meeting. But it's not subject, those conversations are not subject to the open meetings law. One thing I will point out, even in those closed sessions, those should be recorded. And I'm assuming you're all aware of that. But they should be recorded because they can be requested by the Attorney General's office. And you should also be aware of the fact that if they're requested and it's found that you've deviated from the discussion, then you could be found to have violated open meetings law. You would have to do the meeting again and put it all on in the public. So that's the importance of even having closed sessions recorded. You get the difference, Trustee?
Yeah, but
Yes,
can you elaborate on an exempt gathering, so it wouldn't be subject to the same
Sure,
terms?
sure, that's also fairly easy. So let's say I was throwing a party and you were all invited. You could come and it wouldn't be subject to open meetings law because you're not there to do any board of trustees business. You're not doing anything in furtherance of your mission. You're simply coming and enjoying yourself. Same would be true if you're receiving training, educational purposes. That would not be subject to open meetings law. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure I know that we were one off here on the questions here. Good afternoon, Mr. Parker.
Good afternoon.
The board utilizes Robert's Rules of Order to conduct its meetings. We're doing better on that. Describe your knowledge of and experience in this framework for parliamentary procedure.
Sure. So in fact, most bylaws and the NRS 241 defers to Robert's rules in the event something doesn't apply. So if your bylaws don't apply, or if it's something not touched upon by 241, then Robert's rules of parliamentary procedure prevail. So typically, we're very experienced with that. I mean, most people in this space would be familiar with it. It's recognizing the president or the chair, typically is the chair, but the president, so that you defer to the president before you speak typically. Or if you're making a motion, you understand that if you make a motion, it doesn't pass, you're starting from groundwork. I mean, these are pretty easy, simplistic rules. I think everyone could use a refresher every couple of years, but it's necessary to maintain order. And I'm sure we've all seen recently, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, but things have been heated recently. We'll just say that, and especially in school districts because of what the Trump administration is doing with the Department of Education or threatening to do. And so you've seen now on television play out concerns about funding and school board meetings becoming very heated, very heated. And I think they've thrown those rules right out the window. But certainly between Mr. Okazaki and myself, we would apply them here. And I've only been to a few meetings recently. I used to come a lot back in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s when we had a lot of litigation going on. But I've not seen them get out of order. And maybe I've missed a few. But yeah, that's the point and the importance of the parliamentary rules.
Thank you so much, and I think we're out of time, so I will save my follow-up questions for the next round. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Good afternoon. I think you had briefly mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to hear if you could describe any experience you have with Nevada's collective bargaining laws, and/or negotiations with employee organizations in the public sector. And I know you briefly mentioned it.
I
So
did.
if you could
I did.
elaborate.
So in the last 18 months, like I said earlier, we've negotiated very large SEIU CBAs, both for supervisory and non-supervisory positions. I think Clark County is somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 employees. The health district, somewhere over 200 employees. And the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority is around 230 or so. And we were able to negotiate those very quickly. In fact, I was told at the last round of negotiations with Clark County, with SEIU, gone a very long period of time, and they were unable to achieve an agreement, both for the supervisory and non-supervisory. And within 4 sessions, we got it resolved. And so they were very pleased, and certainly I was pleased. It was I would say, very much a joint effort. And one thing I think I've learned about the process. And this may seem naive at first, and I try to convince my clients that it's not. But you have to convince the other side that you're in it for the best of everyone, not just the agency or the district, but for everyone. Because we understand that the teachers in this case, in this environment, and everyone who works for the school district makes the school district what it is. And so I think once you bridge that, that understanding, things go a lot smoother. And you have to roll up your sleeves, of course, and work long hours. But I think preparation, coming with the right mindset, has been very positive for me in dealing with SEIU, working with Sam and with Michelle and their counsel, Evan James and Jason Klum. It's been very positive for me, and it's worked out, I think, for everyone. And at the end of the day, it saves you money. I don't like to talk myself out of a job, but I will tell you, I was told that with Clark County, they had somewhere around 20 or so meetings that were not ultimately successful. We had 4. So I think it's been helpful, and I will tip my hat to the Clark County staff and their executive members, because they worked really hard and got it done, and same for SEIU. We all just worked hard and got it done. And that's the commitment I have for doing our part, I will say. Hopefully that helps. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Yes,
It's a pleasure to meet you.
same here.
So I deep read, and you actually answered my question, so I'm not going to ask you.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So it's going to be on the same topic, Vice President, so I'll try to stick in the theme. I read in the application that you would be the sole representative as our board counsel, correct?
Yes, so that's something that Mr. Okazaki actually prepared me for. And let me address that. I'll use Mr. Mingus' question first and use that as an example. With the SEIU negotiations, no one person can do that, especially not in 4 sessions. So I have people that work with me. I have other lawyers in my office, and at most of those negotiations, there's 2 of us at those negotiations. I typically have a lawyer behind the scenes working on it. In terms of meetings like this, I come to Southern Nevada Health District meetings or the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority meetings when there's something controversial on the agenda, or if it's something that's important. When I say important, everything's important, but some things are more important than others. Some meetings are more important than others. So I typically go to most of the meetings, but I'll have one of my other attorneys come if I'm in trial, because I do a lot of trial work. I'll say that up front. I try cases. I do arbitrations. I do a lot. That's what we do. We're a litigation firm and we're an administrative firm. So we represent public agencies, but we do work for them. We try cases for them as well. So if you were in trial, I would be trying cases for you as well. I don't know if John would have us there, or you would have us there individually, in addition to Mr. Okazaki or some retained counsel. But I'm a trial lawyer, and if any one of you were to do any due diligence on me, I'm sure you have, and ask any of the trial judges here, or the appellate court judges here, or the Supreme Court justices here, I think they will say fond things about me.
So thank you for that, because I have a little bit of follow-up, and I think I still have a bit of time. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So the reason that this is an important, I think, for all of us is accessibility.
Oh,
Only because sometimes meetings maybe are threaded and topics will continue in discussion. So as far as accessibility, educational law is very complex, and I realize that there would be some communication with Mr. Okazaki, but we want to I would like to know from you, what would be that commitment for accessibility, and that maybe one person would always be tuned in to what's current and what's been discussed.
sure. So that's not an issue for me. I will tell you, on all the agencies I represent, the board members, they all have my cell number. They call me all the time, anytime. I encourage it. I would encourage you. Weekends, before work hours, after work hours, I'm always available. If I'm not available, text me. I'll call you back. I'll text you back. Same with all my lawyers. We do that. But I'll be at a the majority of your meetings. If not, it'd be one of my other lawyers. But you'll come to know them just as well. And they've been trained. They've been doing the same stuff I've been doing for several years, maybe not as much, of course. I've been doing it over 30-some-odd years. So I will tell you, I will be accessible to you. If I leave it to right now in 20 minutes, and I'll give you my cell number, you can reach me. And I'll return your call or email.
All right. Describe any personal or professional relationship, any employment or any work that you perform or activity that you engage in that may create a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest if you were hired for this position.
Good question. All questions. Good, but that one, I think, was an issue the last time I came before the board and you were considering this item. And I think Mr. Okazaki mentioned that our conversation, because I represent Workforce Connections, of course, and your president is an employee. He's an executive position there. And I will tell you, I've dealt with this over the many years. Every once in a while, not very often, I'd probably say less than twice a year, one of my agencies will have some form of agreement with one of my other agencies. And this happened just recently with the Housing Authority and with Workforce Connections, as a matter of fact. And it was an MOU that they were going to work together. And what I did with that is I spoke to both of them and said, listen, I can refer you to separate attorneys if you like. You can work this out between yourselves, or if you want to waive any potential conflict, I will give you a conflict waiver form. You can read through it, have a separate counsel review that if you like. And what I will do is simply make the document legal. And then between the two agencies, you work out the business terms, because it has nothing to do with me at that point. And that's been very helpful. Now, some occasions, I have advised them to use separate counsel, because it was something that I didn't feel comfortable working with them together. But in the situation you have here, in all likelihood, if something I couldn't do, your general counsel would be able to handle it. So I don't foresee you having to go out of between my office and your in-house general counsel. In fact, I said this was a good question because on the ride here, because I prepared, of course, responses to these questions. I mean, I know most of it anyway, but it's always good to have reminders. I was thinking about this. And if you hire me, I will tell you this much. I do my best thinking typically driving or on the treadmill. That's where I do it. And so driving here, I was thinking about that because I just worked on that MOU. And I was challenged to try to figure out a situation where you would have to go outside of Mr. Okazaki or myself. Because if you were sued, let's say you were sued, and let's use that horrible example I gave you that was a true life example, you would probably want separate counsel at that point. Because if the trustees found out that the staff was not forthright with it, you would want your own counsel because you'd want to make some decision, especially since it would be the school district and they may name. I've seen board members named individually. So you would want your own. So in that situation, there wouldn't be a conflict for me because it wouldn't involve any of my other agencies. And Mr. Osaka would probably either do it himself or he'd have someone else hired, and I would be alongside, representing your interests. So I couldn't come up with one other than some transactional things. If for example, if you did something with UMC educationally wise, we'd work something out. But even if that came up, I'd probably refer to the district attorney's office if they thought it was an issue. Or Mr. Okazaki could handle it. So I couldn't come up one that would really present a problem, Ms. Henry, despite my challenging myself.
Right, thank you. I
You're
have
welcome.
one really quick follow-up. I know that you mentioned that you have worked with the City of North Las Vegas Library Board.
It was with the library district. This was back in the mid-90s. They were about to do some bond work.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure,
I
because I
think you're
serve
way
on
too
that.
young to
I serve
remember
on that board, yeah, I wasn't there.
You're way too young for that.
I wasn't there then.
Yeah, this was
Thank you.
93, 94. You're way too young.
No, I wasn't there then,
Okay.
thank you.
You're fine.
It's right here, Mr. Parker.
Mr. Johnson.
I've appreciated listening to you and hearing you working in the early 90s as an attorney. I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, you look young, so I don't know.
That's very
I'm
nice
not
of you.
asking your age, but
No, I'm old.
that treadmill must be helpful. If you want some treadmill effects,
That's
Trustee
it.
Stevens could help you find a good treadmill place. But really quickly, because you answered, you've been sharp and you answered the question I was going to ask, I do want
Sure.
you to see if you could share with us, as you've taken a look at the work that we've done and you've looked at us from afar, and now that you've the thought of coming closer to working with us, can you provide some insights on what you think might be some of the most challenging aspects of your work if you were to represent us?
Well, that's a very difficult question, because now it's almost asking me to be critical of your past. And I hesitate to do it. But I will say that the question also means that you want to improve. You want the Board of Trustees to improve. So what I think that most people outside of the board has seen is, from the press at least, what has happened with the superintendent. That didn't play well in the media. And I will say this just to show that no one's above reproach. There were years, not many years ago, where the Housing Authority was getting bad press quite frequently, and some of you may remember that. But you can see things have gotten better, and we've done better. And I know you guys can do better. The fact that you're so interested in having counsel to help you is an indication that you want to do better. But I think you also have a really good group right now. When I used to come here previously, there would be a lot of personality conflict that played out, and it seemed unprofessional to me, because it should be about the business of the school district and not about self-promotion. And that's what I saw a lot. I don't know if hopefully that's not happening anymore. I have not seen it recently, and hopefully it's not happening. I will do my best to help guide, the business. The other thing that I saw, Mr. Johnson, years ago, were allegations about inappropriate spending and not putting the children first, or not putting the teachers first. Those are things that I think require a certain level of sensitivity. Certainly, we can all be appreciative of that. So I would be more concerned on how you're spending money, how you're interacting with each other from the Diaz, and how you're going about treating and selecting your superintendent. Obviously, well, not obviously, recently I met your new superintendent. She is on the board of Workforce Connections. And so I thought that was a tremendous pick. And certainly, whoever's selected ultimately for this position has to be aware of what you're doing here and how that reflects either negatively or positively out there. That's something that I, knock on wood, have been pretty good at judging, I will say. But I think if you're all wearing the same hat, I think it will go a long way. And sometimes people, they wear their local hat, not their school board hat. And please, I'll help you not do that. I've tried to help other boards not do that.
That's helpful. I appreciate the thoughtful
sure.
response, and it
Sure.
wasn't a gotcha, but I do appreciate your thoughtfulness there.
And hopefully I didn't step on any toes by making those comments.
Nope.
Oh, perfect.
Feedback always welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, so
You
apologies,
can go off script if you like.
Yeah, I may have to, But, no, you did answer my question. So
I did?
mine was about the accessibility, and how quickly you'd be able to provide a response. So I do feel like you addressed that very well, and even in your absence, how that would be handled. So I feel like you addressed that. Really, my additional questions all were on the next question. So I don't know who has that. So I'm actually going to reserve until the second round, because any other follow-up questions I have, you may answer in the next one.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so the question, and you kind of answered this a little bit, so I guess I'm asking for you to expand on it a little bit more in terms of when you're working with this board, you have a firm, it's not just you. And so when we think about that and the needs of this board, there are definitely times where it's more demanding than others. And just wondering how, is it always and only going to be you? Are we going to be working with other people? Is it going to be a lot of updating people on your staff? And like I'm just kind of wondering what that relationship is going to look like since it would be your firm representing us, not necessarily just you as an individual.
So typically, my name will be on all the emails, even if someone else is working on something for you. So if you send a question to me, Teddy, what's going on with this issue with SEIU? I'll respond to you. My assistant gets I have 2 assistants that get all my emails. As a result, they're all know that there's a question out there pending, so we can get right back to you. So even if another lawyer responds in my office, I'll be included on that email. So if I don't respond, someone else will respond, but I'll be included, which means if you call me on that email, I'll know the content of that email. So call me, I'll respond. Text me, I'll respond. Email me, I'll respond. If you email me and it's not personally my response, I'll be included in that response from one of my other lawyers or one of my assistants.
Out of curiosity,
Sure.
since you do have 2 assistants reading all your emails, and I am sure that we're going to have communication that might be very private at times, private matters that obviously we don't want getting out there yet as working through certain things potentially. Do they have any kind of agreement with your firm, or like, I don't want to say an NDA, but maybe?
Well, my assistants are employees of the firm, so they have obligations to the firm and to the client. We, all lawyers, I mean, if they were to disclose something that's a privileged client communication, they would compromise my license. So that's not going to happen. That person would be out of there so quick. Yeah, that person would be out of the office before the response went out. So no, you don't have to worry about that. And knock on wood, on my 30 some odd plus years, that's never happened. But that's a
Thank
good
you.
question.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Sure.
All right, members, who's ready for round 2? Trustee Cavazos?
Well, that's good. Okay. Describe how you will charge for your services, who in your firm will be assigned work and why, and how you will assist the board in ensuring that the expenditure of public money for your services is necessary, reasonable, and prudent.
Always reasonable. In response to the RFQ, we gave a price index, price for partners like myself, associates, law clerks, and paralegals. So we do an hourly pricing. What we try to do, and this is one of the reasons why most clients appreciate this, if you're having a meeting and there's nothing on the agenda that's controversial, nothing that is going to require, in our opinion, any true legal advice other than perhaps a 241 issue, then I'll have an associate come. It saves money, saves you money. If there's research to be done, you're not going to do it at my rate. I'm going to do it at an associate's rate. I'm going to have a law clerk performing some of the work so that you're not overspending. I've never, again, knock on wood, I've never had a client come back and say, Teddy, you are so unreasonable. And in fact, quite often they'll say in comparison to other firms, I've charged less. And I don't block bill. I don't know if you heard of that term. I don't do that. I don't seek to find work where there is no work. If there's a way, I believe, and I train my attorneys this way. If there's from A to B, if there's a straight line available, that's the line we take. I don't try to churn a file or create work to pad our bills, which is inappropriate and, in my opinion, unethical. I do what I can to get it done for you as quickly as I can for the best price possible. That's just what we do every day, all day. I can't think of a client that you couldn't call right now who would not say exactly what I said.
I trust your judgment in which meetings when you see things on the agenda, if it would be you or an associate. But would we also possibly have some say as a board to say, no, we really need you at this meeting, or we think with an associate, like, would we be able to have some input potentially on that to help monitor our spending?
So what I've done quite often is I will call the chair or the vice chair and say, listen, is there anything on this agenda? Because I don't see anything on this agenda that really is, provoking or controversial or complex. Do you need me there? If they say they need me there, I'm there. Or if someone else calls me, if any one of you were to call me and say, listen, Teddy, there's an issue here I'm concerned about the legalities of it. Did we do everything we're supposed to do? I'd like you here. I'm here. Unless I'm in a trial, then I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. Mr. Parker, I think you can tell that there's quite a bit of interest on who would be here, when they'd be here, et cetera. So in the past, our past two attorneys, basically our board counsels, have been present at every single one of our work sessions, our closed sessions, our regular board meetings, unless they were ill or a family emergency, anything like that. So I just want to clarify, I'm not sure if I'm hearing you correctly, sir. So are you saying that unless we tell you that there's something that's really controversial, really important, that you would not be at those closed sessions, open? And we have a lot of different terminology. So we've had attorney-client meetings, and we have the closed sessions before our regular board meetings, and this is a work session. So we have a lot of terminology that gets thrown around, but I wanted to clarify. So you would not be here in person? You would only if we request that?
No, so on average, I'll be here. But there may be meetings where I don't see it as something too complex, or there's no novel ideas, or for whatever reason, I don't see anything that will bring a legal question forward. And at that point, I may have one of my associates come here. And not someone with 1 or 2 years worth of litigation experience or administrative law experience, someone who's got 7 or 8 years of experience of doing this. There's never going to be someone sitting here beside you who hasn't done this for 6, 7 years. So you're not going to get an inexperienced person. And if I'm in trial, I'm not going to be here. I could be in trial for something for you, and it would have to send another lawyer here. That's probably why you shouldn't have a solo practitioner doing this, I would suggest, because things happen. But if there is something that I'm not seeing, where I didn't plan to come to a meeting, I'll call the president or the vice president and say, listen, I wasn't planning on coming in this meeting. Someone else is coming. Is there anything you need me to come for? And I'll be there. And that's what I will do. So I would say probably on average, 7 to 10 times in terms of all your meetings, I'll be here. And on those 3 that I don't plan to be here, 30% or whatever, I'll call and see if you want me here. If you want me here, I'll be here. So does that address it?
Pretty much. I appreciate your honesty and your candor. I will say, I think I can speak for all of our colleagues, we're pretty unpredictable at times. So you can look at an agenda and it doesn't look like there's going to be a legal question that pops up, and then we just come out with something. So, I appreciate your candor on that. And Trustee Zamora, I'll hold off until we have more time. I had a second question, but it's up my time.
May I expand a little bit with the trustee?
Yes, I agree, Trustee Cavazos, if you want to just ask your follow-up question, but Mr. Parker wants to.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted her to, because I'd rather address it right now, and I also wanted to expand a little bit more on my response, because I don't want you to get the wrong impression from my response. Let's say that I look at your agenda, like today, and I see a contract on that agenda, to me brings into question, because I looked at the backup material, and I don't think this contract is in accordance with your RFP. Let's just use that as an example. Or I see a change order that doesn't look right on it, in my opinion. I may want to be at that meeting, and I may intend to be in that meeting. And in all likelihood, I will be at that meeting. But I may call the chair and say, listen, I'm going to be at this meeting, I have this issue, and give her a heads up of what my concerns are. So she knows what the issue is, or the vice chair, or any one of you, and my intention to be there. The chair, or president or vice president may say to me, Teddy, in addition to this, I see something else. Now, the unpredictability of what happens at this board is an issue. let me say that up front, and that's why I wanted to address that right now. The agenda is supposed to prevent unpredictability. There's a rule about agendas. It's in the Attorney General's opinions. It's supposed to be complete and clear. What you're talking about, what you're deciding. When you get too far off script, quite often you're off the agenda. And I've had to warn my boards, listen, let's pull it back, because now you're getting off the agenda. And when you do so, you're in violation of the Open Meetings Law. So one of the things that I think we can help with anyone and with the board generally, is through this 241 familiarity. You start learning and self-policing in some part that you shouldn't be this astray of the agenda. It should not be that unpredictable, because if it's becoming that unpredictable, then it's probably not properly reflected in the agenda. I will tell you that. And I've become concerned about things, and I've asked my board, I said, listen, this is not properly agendized. This should be pulled back. Do you see where this conversation is going? This needs to be tabled, because any action you take will probably subject us, by someone in this audience saying they were off this agenda, and then making a call to the Attorney General's office. That's all it takes. And then you're redoing it, in addition to getting your hand slapped. I don't like my boards getting their hands slapped. So one thing we will do, one thing I will try my best to do if selected, is help with this unpredictability. It shouldn't happen. If we're sticking to the business of what's agendized, it should not happen at all. Now, certainly things come, but if it's tied directly to the agenda, we can deal with it. And anybody who's here on behalf of my firm will know how to deal with it, be it myself or one of my young partners or one of my associates. We will be able to handle it. Otherwise, I wouldn't send them here. I mean, part of the trust between the board and its counsel is I'm not putting you in a position where you're not well represented. That's one thing that I want to make sure we're clear. And I will tell you, if you were to call someone from Clark County or someone from the city, those board members who sit on my boards, they will tell you, this board won't be unrepresented. I won't let that happen, because my name's attached to it. My firm name's attached to it. I've been around here too long to compromise that. So that won't happen. I can assure you of that, okay?
Thank you, sir. And I think where some of the confusion was coming from is, again, with the board counsel, it's been kind of like not going on just like, is there something on the agenda where we need to have Mr. Parker here, or on your discretion, one of your attorneys, one of your associates. It's been that the board counsel is here. In other words, is here, and the exception, it's the exception if they're not here. And I think I used the wrong word, sir, so I apologize when I said unpredictable. When I said unpredictable, I wasn't talking about like going off the agenda, although that has happened. I am talking about more where there's maybe like an unexpected question that pops up during the course of our discussion, not going off the agenda, but just something pops up, and Mr. Okazaki bravely steps in. We call on him, to just mostly for clarification is what I was talking about. But I did want to let you know that that it's been more the standard that the board counsel is here for all of those meetings, and it has not been dependent on whether there's something controversial or not controversial. So, but I thank you so much for expanding on that.
Sure.
It really helps
Absolutely.
clarify your answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Cavazos, did you have a follow-up, or?
The other one was on just having to do with what Mr. Parker was talking about on the different kinds of meetings, because we've had meetings in the past where they were, I was very interested, and I will tell you, pleased when you said that the meetings should be recorded, because attorney-client meetings that did not have anybody except our board counsel and our trustees there, they were recorded in the past, and then they just stopped being recorded. And so I was interested in that, and I think you pretty much answered like the type of topics that would be covered in that. So I am very interested. You obviously have a lot of very diverse experience.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me make sure, because when that last question was asked, I could see the level of interest from everyone here. I want to make sure we're on the same page. I don't want there to be any confusion, when this conversation is done. in terms of my attendance, if you believe I need to be here at every meeting, as opposed to a lawyer that's prepared, then I don't know if there's any one person who can be at every meeting, because I've never seen a board where every board member was there at every meeting. And I hate to flip it that way, but I want us to think with common sense here. You need someone who knows what they're doing at every meeting. That's what you need. Someone who's trained, professional when it comes to 241, who's trained and professional when it comes to what this business, the business of the Clark County Board is. Someone who's familiar with Robert's rules, your bylaws. That's what you need at every meeting. If I'm not here, I'm not going to send someone who's not prepared to provide that same level of guidance. I wouldn't let it happen. It would, in my opinion, it would be dereliction on my part. I would be remiss if I had someone here who could not sit in that chair competently. I'm not going to let that happen. I will be here every time you want me to be here, unless I'm dying or in trial doing something else, because I owe that same responsibility to my other clients. If I'm in trial for this agency, I can't be at the board meeting for UMC or at the health district or at the housing authority. I can't do it. But I have the same understanding, and I would ask you to call them, to ask them if they ever felt they were underrepresented at any of their board meetings. And I've been doing this for 30-some years. And I pledge to you that no one will say, you know, I felt underrepresented at that meeting because Teddy wasn't there. That won't happen, because I won't send someone here who's not prepared, equally prepared to handle your questions or to handle what comes up. But one thing I want to say, just no matter who you retain, if a question comes up that is not squarely on this agenda item, you don't address it. You take a risk by addressing things that are not on this agenda. I don't believe in coming off the cuff. You be prepared, be succinct, and if you don't know the answer to it, and if it's not on this agenda, don't hazard the well-being of this board because you're trying to answer a question off the cuff. Don't do it. I would step in, I'm sure Mr. Okazaki would step in and say, listen, that's not on the agenda, number one. And number two, you're asking us to make a determination for something that's not on the agenda. Strictly prohibitive under 241. You don't do it. So part of this process is making sure that you're only dealing with what's in front of you so that you don't make mistakes like that. And I'm not saying that you have, but that's what lends itself to making mistakes.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
For sure.
Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you. If I could clarify, I think Trustee Cavazos was trying to elaborate most of our issues have been parliamentary procedure. And so that's where we kind of get sidetracked is parliamentary procedure. And so there's quite a lot of new members here, so we're all still kind of hopefully not getting our feet wet yet, but we've already kind of gotten our feet wet. Already stepped in the pool. So I had a couple questions if you could elaborate on, you had mentioned conflict, and that is probably the biggest fear the community has, us new members have, is if we have conflict, if the honeymoon phase is over, how will you handle that?
So internal conflicts?
Internal conflicts.
Okay,
yes.
so let me ask this question, and if it's embarrassing, you don't have to answer, but I'll ask it anyway of the board. Have you received board training yet, everyone? Has that been a requirement?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And do you do it on a refresher basis?
We're currently doing balanced board governance and
Good.
training, and so we're all kind of on the same page now, and we're in the process of changing our policies for that, so.
So important. It is so important because, like you said, the internal conflicts, to me, is just a failure to recognize the rules or to know the rules.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a failure, or sometimes it's not just a failure, sometimes it's a refusal. But hopefully, with the training, you recognize the rules and you live by them. You play by them. Because it's unfair to the group, it's unfair to this process if you're not playing by the rules. So if I'm here or if somebody from my firm is here, we'll motion to the group or advise the group that you're not recognizing them and pull back. We'll try to empower the president, the vice president, and everyone here. Listen, we have to follow the rules. Otherwise, we have an unorganized approach at doing the business of this board. they feel it out there in the audience, I will tell you. And the audience, sometimes the wrong members of the audience thrive off of that. They enjoy it, because then it makes you look bad, in my opinion. And that's not what you want to put out there in this community. That you can't handle your own business internally. How can you handle such a large agency? That's the feeling that people will take away from it. And I brought this up earlier because, you see it on the news, some school boards in complete disarray. I mean, they're yelling at each other, they're standing up, as opposed to sitting down. They're personalizing certain topics. Can't do that. I mean, that's just a poor reflection on the 5th largest school board in the country. It's embarrassing. It should be embarrassing to each one of you if it happens, and certainly embarrassing to the entire board. So I will do my best, as much as an attorney or any other person could do, to have you pull back from that if I see it. I will also suggest that, some of the basic training isn't enough. And sometimes, when you're in school, you got 101 courses, you got 201 courses. Sometimes you need the 201 courses, or those 301 courses. And I will tell you, I suggest getting them to all my board members. I said, listen, the indoctrination is one thing, but you're trying to drink through a fire hose sometimes, learning the substantive information as well as the procedural processes. That's a lot to do. And I will tell you, just like when you're in school, it's hard to learn it all at once. So I believe in the training, in the training, in the training. Because it just helps everyone. It helps the board, it helps each one of you. So hopefully that addresses what you were asking, Trustee Dominguez.
It does, and it kind of leads me to the second question. I'm sorry if
Oh.
I could. Would you be in attendance to our balanced board governance trainings, or send a colleague?
Sure. And we attend those. Oh, I'm sorry. You okay? All right. So we attend some of those. Sometimes I don't like my client having to pay for me to attend their training, but if my client wants me to be there, we'll be there. And I will tell you, I recommend not just the training that we do, but sometimes I do training for my groups, or I'll attend panel meetings with my clients to help them along. Things that you can do that's strictly educational, that's not subject to the open meetings law, that's beneficial to the board. So, yeah, I agree with that. You're welcome.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Straff again?
Thank you. So my only follow-up that I have is that, sorry, technical difficulties,
Okay.
is that Mr. Ogazaki initially, when he took on the responsibility of both roles, his amount of hours were increased. So my ask of you would be, would there be communication between you and Mr. Ogazaki, and what would be that release so that he can get to his day work? Because I know educational law is very extensive, and he has a skill set that is very much in that realm, and you have a skill set very much in all of the other pieces that we are considering.
So I was speaking with him about that. It's funny you should ask that. I was speaking with him about that before this meeting started. And I asked him what his thoughts were in terms of the division of responsibility here. So primarily my responsibility would be to this board. What I foresee happening is he and I having weekly conversation about what's going on. Because something I would like from him, which I think the board would benefit from, I'm not sure if you're getting them already, are litigation updates. I think this board has to be familiar with litigation is out there. I think you should know where your money's going, money that's not going towards your teachers or your students or your facilities. I hate it to go to litigation where it's unnecessary. So that's one thing he and I will probably talk a lot about. And then in terms of transactional things the school district is doing, financial stuff, bond-related stuff, those to me are high priority, because in my opinion, the school board is a fiduciary, and you have financial responsibilities for this board, and you have to take the money seriously. I mean, there is no substitute for having your fingers on that kind of information. So I would certainly look and start with the big items like that. With the SEIU negotiations coming up, I'd have to know where we are in terms of contract provisions that you believe will be subject to change. Quite often, you have 40 to 50 articles within the CBA on general, I would say, for most agencies. And when you do negotiations, there's certain ones, obviously the money portions of it will take front and center towards the end of it, but there's also non-economic provisions that could be important, and those are ones I would speak with John to see where things are between the board and SEIU, so we can get ready, be prepared for it. But I see that we would work hand in hand throughout the process. I see it as a collaborative effort, not I don't see it as an adversarial effort at all. I see it more collaborative, where we work together. Does that address the question fully? Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Hi, Mr. Parker.
Hey, how are you?
Given how it would be under circumstances where you're in trial that you'd be unable to attend, can you give us an average of how many days in a month you are in trial?
The trial's unpredictable, just like questions that this board may suffer sometimes. No worries. I'm just keep throwing it back out there. So, like I said, trials are unpredictable, and I have a trial coming up in July that may last, I think, 7 to 10 days. So not very long, but some trials last longer. But they're predictable. They're unpredictable because you don't know which cases will settle. But we all know most cases don't go to trial. Probably less than 10% of all cases go to trial. So this year I've already had one trial. I got another one scheduled in July. And then I have one that's possibly scheduled in October, but I don't believe that one's going to go forward in October. It may go in November or January, something like that. So I would suggest that on average, you're looking at 2 to 3 trials a year. So it's not every month. It's not as often as one may think. Does that give you some level of confidence or comfort?
It does. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Parker. I do have 2 follow-up questions real quick. The first part is more of a yes or no. So when you
Yes.
say when you say you will communicate with our general counsel, would that be yourself or someone on your team? Those
Well,
weekly kind of touch it base.
Well,
make sure
typically it
those-
would be me.
Okay.
Obviously, if I'm in trial or, God forbid, I'm on vacation. I say that because people are like, oh, God, you're taking vacation. But, typically it would be me. But even when I'm on vacation, which my wife hates this, I take my phone, I take my iPad, I take my laptop. So I tell you, one of the best times to work is on the plane. Because no one's bothering you. Put your headphones on, you can get a lot done. So I have my phone with me. You guys can text me when I'm on vacation. I'll let you know. But if it's not me, then one of my associates will. And if you send me an email, I get those anyway.
Thank
Does that
you.
help at all?
It does, and there's a few of us that have PTSD, so we might need therapy too. But and that's why we're asking, what it looks like to communicate, because there's just things that have happened that were never planned during a meeting.
Oh, no worries.
And I do prefer having someone in person than trying to be over the phone, because that also
Yeah.
makes it very difficult, because the phone lines will not pick up unless you're talking into the mic, right? And
That's
there can be
right.
side stuff happening. So the follow-up question to that is, how do you communicate with your team? So if we have a closed meeting and it's yourself, but then, we have a board meeting that might have to do with what
Bless
was
you.
discussed, bless you. How do you all communicate? Is that a daily basis? Because one of the things that we are dealing with is kind of that institutional knowledge sometimes, or that background information. So having to restart something or having to re-explain something is a little bit difficult. So how do you communicate with your team to make sure everyone's on the same page, everyone knows exactly what's going on, and just...
So if I'm in a meeting with you, like I'm sitting in John's spot, I'll text my office and ask them to do this, or I'll email them and say, listen, I need backup on this information, or I need some quick research on this topic. And they'll respond right away. We have people who can do that for us. And the same would be true if I had one of my other lawyers here. They could correspond with me as well. Not to mention, you can always text me. It's attorney-client privilege, our communication. So you're free to call me, text me. If you're in a meeting, you can do it. There's not a problem with that. At that point, I'm your attorney. You can call me anytime you want. If you're in a meeting and my attorney's sitting there, you can direct my attorney to contact me, or you can do it yourself. But if I'm here with you, I can reach out to my team. It's not a problem. My primary office is here in Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas. My children went to Faith Lutheran. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I apologize. But the point is, that's okay? Nobody's upset? I didn't lose a job because of that, did I? But the point is, I'm here, and you can reach me.
And I know you're mentioning you're here, but I'm thinking of a scenario where you are in a trial and there's something that happens, but something within the board happened the morning of,
Yeah.
right? What is, just want to be clear that there's that constant communication with your team, so then when your team is here because you're in a trial, but something you dealt with in the morning, they are completely up to date. So just sounds like it's more of a machine that's happening, but
Yeah,
want to be
there
clear
is.
on that.
And we have our phones at the office, and I have my phone at the office, I have my phone at trial, it's on. I may not call you, but I can text you. Trials last a long time. Quite often, if I'm not questioning a witness, I'm sitting there. You can text me. I'll respond. We have breaks. Every trial judge in the 8th Judicial District Court takes a morning break, lunch break, afternoon break. Every trial day. In addition, there are dark days during trial. So my trial doesn't prevent things from going forward. So if you need me during trial, and one of my lawyers is here, they can reach me. Because the trial typically starts at 9, there's a break at 10:30. We go back in at 10:45, typically we're there to 12 o'clock. There's typically an hour to an hour 15 minutes generally for lunch. We go back in the trial, we get a break at 3 o'clock. So that part of it is routine, it's a regimen. So you'll have access to me.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Trustee Cavazos, do you have another question?
Sorry, I believe he has answered it with one of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Straff again?
I have no further questions. When the discussion is complete, I'd like to make a motion.
We have to go to public comment. We have a lot of public commenters, Trustee Esparza-Straff.
Copy that. Copy.
Thank you. Mr. Parker, you want to do a 2-minute closing statement for us?
Actually, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry. Teddy, so
Sure.
this wouldn't come up in a conflict check. We did a conflict check on you, and as far as I know, your firm, neither you or your firm are actively representing any plaintiff against school district or the board. But I've just been made aware that, do you have a brother who has a general contracting firm that has contracts with the school district?
Absolutely.
So my understanding is, like all construction work, there's disputes coming up here and there. My concern is that I think he's represented that you have been advising him. You're his brother, you're an attorney, he's probably turning to you, but I do see that as a potential conflict in that you are representing somebody who is actively engaged in the Clark County School District, and there may be a dispute that comes up there. So can you describe what if my information is accurate, and what is your role as far as the attorney representing your brother? Because
Sure.
since he does have contracts with us.
Sure. So my brother's company is called Cobblestone Construction. I don't know if anyone here has heard of it. It does a lot of public works projects, which means his company does work for other public agencies that I also represent. And if there's ever a conflict between the agency and Cobblestone, I can't represent Cobblestone, I can't represent the agency. It's no different. And as much as I love my brother, my ethical obligations prevent me from representing him over another client.
So right now, obviously, you're not working for the Clark County School District, you're representing them, so you are giving advice to him on his matters right now. But if you were to be hired as board counsel, your representation is you'd cut off that advice?
As it pertains to Clark County School District
Yes.
project, of course.
Okay.
So this is one reason why I decided, because I've never asked to do school district work in the past, because I had several litigated claims against the school district back in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s. But Cobblestone's never had a litigated case against the school district. And I believe Cobblestone opened up in 97 or 98. So I felt comfortable at this point, given over 20-some-odd years of never having a litigated case against Clark County, about pursuing this contract. So I appreciate the question because it puts it all out there. I will admit, listen, I represent a lot of people in this
Yeah, that's-
valley. And I've never, none of my clients have ever said, you know, Teddy, you've breached some obligation to me. You've created a conflict that we can't resolve. Never happened because I'm forthright. I tell what the situation is, and I uphold my obligations to my client. So if any of my construction clients were to come and have a case against the school district, I won't represent them. That's just the way it is.
Thank you. John, Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you. This leads me to another question is, with your, with the coverage you've had of litigation with Public Works and all the other agencies you've covered, have you ran into any issues where there was a conflict where you had to essentially choose a client or?
No, you can't choose a client. The rules of ethics don't allow you to choose a client. If there's a conflict, you can't represent either. The only way you can represent them if you get both clients to agree to some form of representation. But even then, I mean, if there's a true conflict where the interests are so divergent that it can't be reconciled, then you just can't represent either, and you back away. I will, bless you. So the only conflict that I could come up with that would touch upon or be relevant to this discussion was the one that I spoke of earlier, which was an MOU, where there is no, there was no dispute. It was simply a go-forward relationship to provide services for dislocated workers.
And
So it was a win-win in my opinion.
sometimes we have a lot of contracts with a lot of people all over, whether it's civilian or government contracts. Do you foresee any conflicts as far as basically covering us and also having past clients? Are you still working with other government agencies?
So I informed earlier some of the agencies I still work with, like the Housing Authority or the Health District. And I think these are agencies that you would do more partnering with than you would ever have litigated. I don't know of any claims where the school district was suing the Housing Authority, or the school district was suing the Southern Nevada Health District, or the school district was suing UMC. I haven't seen those either. Fortunately, I've not seen any claims by UMC against the school district or the Housing Authority against the school district. I haven't seen any claims like that, so I don't foresee it. Like I said earlier to you, Trustee Henry, on the drive here, I was trying to think of a conflict that could arise with some of these other public agencies, and I'm not aware of any. And that's one of the reasons I also did the research on current litigated claims involving the school district. And I didn't see any with any other public agency.
Got it.
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Did that
Thank-
answer your question?
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Ready for your closing statement?
Well, I don't know how much of a closing statement I need to give. I think we've touched on quite a bit today. We certainly went further in depth on the questions that I was advised of, which I appreciate. It gave me a chance to kind of hone in what your true interests were. I have no concerns about being able to represent the board. I think that it would have to be a certain level of cooperation with any attorney you retain, me or anyone else. I think you have to put trust in your counsel, and your counsel has to trust that we're all in it for the right purposes. Because I think, given some of the questions that perhaps there's been times when the board felt that it needed help. When I say help, not that John has not provided you help, but sometimes you need separate help, individualized help. And that would, I would think, enhance what this board does and enhance what Mr. Okazaki provides both now for the board and for the staff and the agency as at large. So if anything, I would suggest that, be it me or anyone else, just be committed to working together. Certainly I would be, and I would think that you would hold whatever counsel you retain to be just as engaged as I would. So that's all I would say in closing.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
You're welcome.
All right, members, you ready for discussion? Get yourself in the queue. No one? Trustee Cavazos?
Under pressure here by Trustee Zamora. Mr. Parker, something that has been done in the past, and I was just kind of thinking through, I don't have a treadmill here available, but I'm still trying to think about things. Guess I could
Trustee
get one of those
Cavazos,
under the-
just to be clear, it's a discussion with us, not Mr. Parker.
We can't ask him anymore, we're done with the follow-up,
We were
right?
done with follow-up
Okay,
questions.
then I'm going to direct it then. To my colleagues, something that I'll just redirect to you guys. Something we've done in the past, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't, but I know that there's been a lot of attention and concern about availability, being too busy, whether he'd be able to be there or not. Looking over the packet, his firm, the attorneys have a very wide diversity of experience. You know, they all are different, and he has assured us that they all know parliamentary procedure. Having one maybe backup attorney, and I think what we're all kind of concerned about, what I'm hearing from my colleagues, is that we don't want to have a different attorney at every single meeting or every single closed session. We want that consistency and that rapport and that connection. So something that has been done in the past with previous attorneys, like I said, sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't, is to have like a backup attorney that's usually the same one that if Mr. Parker cannot be here, that we have that rapport and we have that relationship so that we know there's that continuity of the institutional knowledge. So I just thought I would throw that out to you because that's something that we have done in the past.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you. I know we didn't talk about this, trustees, but we also, there will be like negotiations for his contract. And so just keep that in mind as we move forward, that there will be going, either it could be hourly or a retainer, whatever, however we negotiate. So just keeping that in the back of our minds. Thanks.
Thank you, members. Any other discussion? No? All right. And for the record, we have no public comment, so if someone would like to make a motion. Trustee Esparza again.
I'd like to make a motion to accept 2.01 Board Council Review of the Respondent Proposals of Mr. Parker and Associates.
Can you repeat that one more time?
So I think the decision at this point, or the motion, that the decision on action at this point is whether you would like to recommend hiring
Okay.
Mr. Parker's firm, or if not, something else. But what would the board's next steps be?
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to recommend for hire Mr. Parker and Associates for the Clark County School District School Board of Trustees as our board counsel.
Trustee Satori, would you like to second that motion?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Trustee Dominguez?
At this point, how do we move into negotiations from here?
If the
What is
board
the
takes action
procedure?
to move forward to hiring Mr. Parker's firm, then I would enter into negotiations with him on a service contract. And same thing as any negotiations, you would tell me what terms you're interested in. I'd propose them to Mr. Parker. He would counter, and we'd go back and forth until we reach an agreement.
Would there be a timeline?
You could set a timeline if you want, but obviously if you indicate that you're interested in hiring him, he's clearly interested in providing his services to you, so I think we just move as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a quick follow-up question to that answer. Would this be presented to us at a future board meeting? Would it be an item on an agenda?
Yes, his contract would actually have to come before you to be voted on.
Thank you, members. I think we are ready for a vote. That passes 6-1 abstain? Yes?
Passes 6-0 with 1 abstain.
There you go, 6-0, 1 abstain. Thank you, members. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Oh, there we go, right on cue.
All right, we are now ready to move to agenda item 2.02, trustee community engagement meeting proposal. I'm going to turn it over to trustee Johnson.
All right, I'm glad to be here at this time. I was on the phone last time we did this proposal. I was in a rainy hotel room in Chicago, so I'm glad to be able to look everybody in the face. This has been a great process. I'm excited to be able to share with you all. Ms. Caitlin, are you able to put up the PowerPoint presentation, please, and thank you? I don't have a clicker, so if you have one, that'd be helpful. Do my best to do this well while I normally present and I'm able to walk around the room. So I'll have to turn my head left and right. But so I wanted to start us off by talking about what this proposal was, and I want us to look at this slide deck because I can appreciate that a document can be a little bit dense, and so my hope is that we can walk through this slide deck, which is aligned to the document, and we can go through the document after we've gone through the slide deck. So the goal of today is to do 3 things. One, I want us to take a look at what the previous proposal was, and just kind of go through that a little bit, talk about where we are in the process, and then Trustee Ramona Esparza-Strofigan will guide us through a process of answering some questions, understanding some next steps, and hopefully we can get to a place where we finish off what this proposal looks like so we can start moving to the closest to being done with this. So we started this back in the spring, and we approached President Bustamante Adams and asked her if we could figure out how to get community engagement meetings back onto the docket. And so she established a working group, and that working group's responsibility was to create a proposal that would enable us to come back to you all, the board, and allow for you all to see some ideas and then help us shape that. So we drafted that first proposal back in April. You all gave some really helpful feedback for us to go back and work on. We took that over the next couple of months, or I guess weeks, and first, the working group internally, we went back and forth and did some editing. And then we had the privilege of working with Superintendent Ebert and her team on the process because they gave some really incredible feedback on what the district could do and how we could make this proposal work for all of us. So that was phase 2 of this. And then the last phase of it will be the board providing, which is where we are today, the board providing some guidance on this second version of this proposal, which is version 2.0, and then we begin to execute on the plan, with the goal being to try to do this by the fall, but obviously that depends on how far we get, how much work we can get done. A couple of caveats that I hope that we can note. At the very back of the document, the written document, there's an appendix. And in that appendix, there are some guiding documents. Those are just examples of what could be true. So I know that there might have been questions around like, why is it structured this way, or what, how'd you come to that determination? That was I guess, a set of ideas. And so those ideas, and I said this then the first time we did this, they're written in pencil because the goal is that we will work together to create what the schedule looks like, what questions we might ask. So we designed this framework with the intention of getting feedback and knowing that examples are helpful so that you don't have to start with a blank piece of paper, but instead you start with what an idea could be, and then we move to the finished product with all of our 10 brains tonight, but 11 in total, working together on a document. So that sets us up for where we are. I'm going to pass this over to Trustee Zamora, or Vice President Zamora. If you'd like to go through slides, the next couple of slides. If you don't, I'm happy to take it, but I gotcha. All right. So the draft proposal was created from the working group. And you all got the first version of it where, we had put the four of us, Trustee Dominguez, Trustee Ramona Esparza-Strofigan, Vice President Zamora, we had put our brains together, drafted a design, and then with the goal of, again, getting your input and feedback on it. It included the scope of work and it's a timeline for how we wanted to get it done. We were hopeful that you all could kind of help design that or help us with that. And then during the work session, you all provided some feedback that moved it forward. And then we are now at phase 2, so we're designing the redesign and the share. And Trustee Dominguez, do you want to discuss the redesign? All right, I'm being voluntold here, but you know what? I drank a lot of water, so I'm really I'm ready to go here. All right, so the working group then expanded. So we brought in Superintendent Ebert and her team. So 2 of the team members are here in the crowd. Actually, 3 of the team members are in the crowd with us, and we also had Ms. Roseanne Richards. So we had a really full and diverse group of teammates who were able to help us think through what can this next version look like. How do we put together something that might be really inclusive of our community, inclusive of what we need? And that collaboration helped us align on where we are today. And I was really thankful for it because there were some things that we hadn't thought of that our district partners were really able to push our thinking on. So it was really a great show of teamwork for us to be able to work together on this document. The thing that I was actually most thankful for was Superintendent Ebert had a really clear vision for how she wanted to leverage these meetings to be the jumpstart of her community opportunity to have community provide input on the vision that we have for the next 5 years, or the strategic vision that we want to create. And so leveraging these community meetings as the start of the way to gather feedback from our community on our strategic plan was something we hadn't thought of. And as they talked about what might be a great way to start these meetings, we thought that'd be a fantastic thing. So the outcome of that meeting, which I think was good, plus a lot of rounds of feedback between the groups as we worked pretty feverishly through graduations. I know at one point, Trustee Zamora was in her gown in backstage typing edits, but in all seriousness, everybody worked hard through the weekend, through the holiday weekend, to be able to get a document that I think is some of our best thinking on what this could look like. All right, so now I am going to pass it to Trustee Esparza-Strofigan because she is the brainchild behind these next set of questions, which I think are really strong. And so she's going to help guide us through just the thought exercise around what the finished product could look like. You want to guide the slides? Or you want me to push them forward?
I'll be happy to take the ball, Trustee Johnson. Can you I'm doing the clicker too?
Oh, I do the clicker. I didn't know.
Oh,
that's all I was asking.
multitask, love it. Okay, can you help me out? Help a friend, okay. So we heard you at the last time that this was shared, in the sense that people wanted to make sure that their voices were included. And, we wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to even see the documents ahead of time. Knowing that, our lives are busy, we did our best to try to get everything in the timelines that Mr. Caruso always is really diligent and so timely for us to meet those obligations. So if we look at next steps, we heard you as far as looking at what does that look like and what does that mean going forward. So we want to know, and we do need to use this time today to kind of talk about like what are going to be our next steps with the draft that we've been kind of drafting and proposed and guided for you. Next slide, please. So these were some of the outstanding questions, and I apologize, I will read them because we do have people listening online. So please just indulge me and forgive that and give grace. Some of the questions that you had was that what system, whether it be a QR code or a survey, will we use to track and address questions during and after the meeting? very important to gather that data, not to miss that opportunity to get that feedback from the community. We learned from our superintendent search and also from our facility master plan that that is really valuable information that we should be gathering and really coming back to. The next question, how will we share major themes from community meetings to the board? Unanswered. How will we share actions based on community feedback? Would we like to create separate meetings for various stakeholder groups? Examples of staff meetings, student meetings, parent meetings, or community meetings. Are we going to delineate between the groups like we did with the superintendent's search? We don't know. Last one, are trustees allowed to join meetings for which they are not hosting trustee? In other words, some of you asked us directly, some of the committee members, what if we want to be participating in other trustees' meetings? So that was some of the unanswered questions. Next slide, please. Continuation of some of the questions was, what was the maximum length of each meeting? What is the procedure for securing questions prior to the meeting? Are we going to even consider that? And what would be the structure of our meetings to maybe have it more open-ended, or are we going to gather questions from the public ahead of time? Third question was, what is the process for capturing the information, which we mentioned earlier? And can we link community meetings to maybe other school functions? Some of you had some amazing feedback. Like, I think some of the trustees were asking if we have a open house night, you know, can we piggyback, which is a very important night? What about school events that are currently happening academically or extracurricular-wise? Like, how can we really make use of the time and really grab our community when they are available? So having said that, we will go to questions. I know it's a lot to look at, and we do have a separate document, but I feel the need that we need to pause and really kind of answer any questions about the process before we go into the document.
Any questions from the trustees?
This is question, not discussion, right?
This is questions, yes. Trustee Biasotti?
Going back to the question that is on here on how will we share major themes from community meetings to the board, I was wondering if we could do something where we could dedicate an item on the agenda to do a follow-up on a community meeting, so we can discuss it openly during a board meeting.
Thank you for that. I'm going to write that down. Any other questions from the team about the process? Okay, see no other questions then.
Now let's get to work.
Do you have another question?
That's what I hope it is.
I have another question.
Oh, yes, Trustee Biasotti.
Also referring to the question where are trustees allowed to join meetings for which they are not the host trustee, I wouldn't be in favor of that too much unless we overlap, only because we're representative of the community, so I think it kind of defeats the purpose. I would like to keep it only for representatives of the district.
Thank you for that. Trustee Stevens.
All right, so I have a few notes based on some of the outstanding questions that were highlighted in this proposal. By the way, guys, great job. This is awesome. I remember when I was campaigning, this was talked about a lot. The community desperately wants this, and it's wonderful having a superintendent and her team that is behind this. As I was reading through this, saying, oh, they're going to volunteer to help us with all of the things that we were asking about last time. Phenomenal. So in terms of finding solutions and answering some of these questions, there was a question about how long it should be. I think in order to give the community time to show up and then to get through questions and answers and spend time, I would say 90 minutes. If we go over that, it's going to start to feel like at least for me, it's going to start to feel like I'm in another board meeting in a sense, and we have a lot of meetings. So I would really like to enjoy my time engaging with the community and have a limit to 90 minutes. To Trustee Biasotti's point, I agree with her. I was on a call today for my other job, and there was a question about a presentation, should we be inviting these other folks to come in and be a part of it? And it was a resounding no, and the reason why is because when you have too many people in a meeting getting involved, it's like having, what do they say, too many cooks in the kitchen? It can be a lot, and I would like to just respectfully say that we all, for those of us who were appointed and for those of us who are elected, we were chosen by the folks in our district. And so I think it's really important that we get the opportunity to represent those folks that voted us in or that appointed us in those areas. Beyond that, when we talk about the QR code, the questions, how do we collect them? There is so much out there. There's one in particular that I found called Slido. If you're familiar, Slido's pretty cool. And you can even do it for free if you only have 100 participants, and I don't know how many participants we're going to have in each meeting, but it's pretty awesome. You get the opportunity to, people can be anonymous or they can leave their information. Now, I'll be honest with you, we would probably have to do one of the paid ones because of some of the features that we'd want, but it's not super expensive by any means. And it gives people the opportunity maybe when they're checking in, because I know we talked about having security. So when they're checking in security, it's just like when they're checking in to go to a high school football game or something like that. There's a QR code for their tickets. So you have like a Slido QR code when they're going through security that they can click on. They can put in their information. Now, the beautiful thing about people having to put in their information is it kind of reminds me of some of our briefings when we talk about follow-up. So let's say we have all these questions coming out and the trustees, and we're trying to answer questions as best as we can. I forget about you guys on my left side, sorry. We try to answer these questions as best as we can, but then there's going to be questions we don't have answers to, right? And in those cases, much like our briefings, we usually have someone, Joe, who takes those notes, goes and gets the answers, and sends them back as a whole, which we could do for all participants at every single event. So when you have this type of registration to be able to put in your questions, whether anonymously or not, their information can still be there so that we can email back any kind of answers that maybe we weren't able to answer in that moment, and that's how they get their follow-up. And it's a very easy, streamlined process. It's all virtual, it's all digital, it's not expensive. So that was just a solution that I saw as an opportunity for us in that capacity. And then one other fun little idea that I had, if we do this, what might be fun is if we notice, and I'm sure we will, all of us will have community members that show up regularly, and they are there and they're letting their voice heard and they are engaged. And that's what we want, right? That's what we need. We don't make our decisions very effectively without the voice of the people. And so for those people, it might be fun to maybe during one of the award ceremonies that we do annually for the school district, that we put together like a community advocate award or something like that. And just a way to kind of, nod our head to our amazing community members who are showing up for our kids, showing up for us, showing up for their community. So it was just a little idea that I had as we were kind of going through these slides, but thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I definitely want to give a shout out to our committee who had been working really hard on this. One thing that was also discussed was a lot of the accountability pieces too, like who's responsible for what, because if we don't give ownership about this, it's going to fall through the cracks, and that's something that I think collectively as a team, leadership, we all were in agreement of, so I just wanted to share that with you all. Trustee Biasotti and Trustee Stevens, I hear your point of, not having other trustees, and I really want to kind of brainstorm this and have a good discussion about it, because I represent Eastside. Eastside is completely, it feels like its own little world, compared to Summerlin, compared to Henderson. It's very unique, And I understand that, but I would love to see how the Centennial, what kind of issues might be going on, what themes are happening in Henderson, because they're going to be completely different. So hearing directly from the community, I think, is very important, especially if you decide to go into a leadership role. I'm not just sitting here as a vice president to District D. I am sitting here as the vice president to the district as a whole. So I would love to get a better grounding and understanding of all the districts across, right? So what can we come up with as a team to understand the issue of just kind of, it's your people, you're comfortable with it, but also having that space so other trustees can come in and learn. So does that mean we're guests? We're not co-hosting or anything, but do we also go into the space of an understanding, Trustee Stevens, this is your meeting, I'm just here, take notes, would love to have a follow-up conversation after of what I had learned. How do we keep that open as well? And I saw Trustee Biassari got in, so I don't know if answers.
So I would think the answer to that would be that you would be relaying that information back to us at a future time where we could discuss and get your feedback on how your meeting went. And in that way, we would all be informed and get the responses that we could discuss all together. I think that would be a way for you to be the voice of, bring it to the board, and then all of us take that information together, as opposed to having us individually attending each other's meetings.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez?
Oh, can I jump in on that answer as well?
Yeah, I was going to say
You
that
guys were
thought
going to
too.
respond to that?
Yeah, thank you, sorry. So I see this in two parts. One, these meetings are open to the public, so we're not going to say, you can't come. Of course you can come, right? But you would then come as a guest. I do see what Trustee Biassari is talking about. It's kind of like we have something on the agenda next where we're going to do quarterly reports, right? We all have our own committees that we're assigned to. I don't need to go sit in on the PBS meetings because that's not, I know she's going to tell us, kind of a thing, right? So we can kind of lean on each other in that way. But if you really want to hear from the people, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to come. It's just not, to your point, it's not hosted by a ton of trustees. It's you're coming as a guest and you want to hear and you want to learn from them too. And I don't see a problem with that at all. I mean, it's public.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza again?
Thank you, President. Yeah, I was going to echo that, but also say, very similar to what we did for graduation. Some of us wanted to support certain communities because maybe we were asked to be there and it wasn't in our district, but we invited ourselves. And so we just courtesy told and asked fellow trustees, may we participate? And I think that's just, a level of professionalism that we could definitely extend, not just that it's a public meeting, but that it's a courtesy that we would just ask and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be a guest, or I would like to participate, and just be there to support. I think some trustees actually have reached to each other to say, hey, I might want you to be coming to my meeting, because I don't want to be alone.
Thank you for that input. Trustee Dominguez?
Finally. Okay. First I want to thank Trustee Adam Jackson here. I'm sorry, Johnson, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. It's been a long month, actually. My apologies. I'm losing it. Okay. You did a lot of work with this. You gathered us like little cats during graduation, so I really appreciate that work. And also I wanted to point out a couple things here. So on the last page, actually second and last page, 6 and 7, it says previous community meeting topics. These are provided from Mr. Caruso, just kind of give us an idea of like what topics have been used in the past. And it doesn't really set what the topics that will be used for these meetings, but just kind of give you an idea of what there are. I know there's a lot of things like I had listed, like mental health, a lot of things that were more expansive into today of what is needed in our community, and so I wanted to point that out. And also, I wanted to point out that looking at the schedule, I want to make sure staff is able to attend these meetings, so I know we have like two
set in each month, but that's also, this is a draft, obviously, but we can move that around and have, one trustee a month, or just however we want to do this. So it kind of works. And I would also say, if you want to have a partner there, I mean, having the appointed members is great to make sure that they are able, if in their schedule, they can attend. But that's a great person to lean on in your district, to have somebody else there. So just wanted to point those things out.
Thank you. Trustee Satori?
Thank you. Yes, and I also would like to thank the committee as well. This is very well put together and very appreciated. Yeah, and I also agree. I was just going to say a couple of things that I had thought along the way as well and agreed with. Sharing with the board, coming back and sharing with the board, I thought that was a good idea. I also kind of like a common criteria for that of like, here's the format, here's the length of time, so that all of our presentations are similar, and some, don't go lengthier or shorter, and vice versa. Same then with common format for agendas. I know that was in there as well, that I like that we would have. Obviously, there's flexibility for community needs, but making sure that our meetings all look similar, so we're not hearing that one meeting was conducted a different way and that kind of stuff. On the topic of separating by stakeholder groups, some of the concern I had, what Trustee Dominguez brought up, was the financial, difficulties of that. Now we're asking for more meetings, more time, and I know a lot of times when you separate it, although the conversation is more focused, you're getting less and less people, and a lot of times the comfort level or the dynamics kind of change. So I would think, at least initially, just having it with all stakeholders invited, that way they can kind of, it's good for people to hear the concerns of the staff, or staff to hear concerns of parents. I think there is definitely value in hearing the concerns of all stakeholders. So I would say keep it, my opinion would be to keep it as all, and then if we see that they're getting huge and we're getting a lot of people attending, then definitely a need to break it down. And then I also really like the idea of linking it to other functions. I know it's always so hard to get people to attend if it's just coming for that thing. So like trying to find events at the schools where we can piggyback off of, and then market it that, hey, stop by this room, stop by this, location while you're here at the Fall Festival or whatever it is. Fall Festival might not be, there's too much fun going on, but you know what I mean. Other events, other academic events, or things where they can also stop by and participate.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Yeah, so would we be able to have you provide us with a format in the future on how, is it going to be structured, a structured meeting, or it is structured? Oh, I see it now. Okay, I see more of the idea of the format. And the second question I had, would we be able to have CCSD engagement there, so they can be keeping everyone abreast of what's happening?
So one of the things that the group talked about, and Superintendent Ebert, if you'd like to jump in here, I would love your voice, but I'm not volunteering you, if you want to. But one of the things that we discussed pretty in-depthly is that we want to make sure that we are seen as a unit. We are a working unit, and the way we become seen as a working unit is when we show up together. And so I gave a long answer to say yes, but I wanted you to understand the why behind it. And Superintendent, I would love for you to elaborate, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Johnson and Trustee Biasotti. So yes, and it is also, as Trustee Johnson was just saying, right, it's a team, and so our team will be listening as well, right? You'll be listening, and our team will be listening. And there may be questions that right on the spot we'll be able to answer, so people don't have to wait for responses. But throughout this entire process, and again, thank you, moment of gratitude, because not only was it during graduation, but I will add, you were all up at 7 a.m. For that meeting as well. So I was very appreciative of that to move forward. And so those component, I guess the why and the outcome, and what the community is looking for, what you're looking for, I believe has been addressed in the 7 pages, not with all the, locations now and time and the who, but that's what we're looking forward to is, and you've kind of already answered some of these, because as we were meeting with your subcommittee, these were some of the other questions that came up, and you're getting to those pieces of, sharing back, because that's important. It's, okay, great, we're not doing a check the box, you had a meeting, right? Nobody needs that. Nobody has time for it. So what are your outcomes? How are you going to present them back and share them back? And I would like to just take a moment specifically with the strategic plan. That first set of meetings will be a little more structured by the team here, the two deputies, communications, and all of our other components, because we'll be gathering a lot of information to set forth our vision, our strategic plan for a release in April of '26. And so we are also looking at other tools that other school districts use in gathering information and then iterating and prioritizing in those pieces as well. So thank you.
All right, any other questions? Trustee Ramona Esparza-Straffigan.
Okay. I do want to ask our superintendent, because you alluded to a schedule. So you might have a tentative schedule of your community meetings, and I just anticipate that we want to make sure the staff is not taxed with our meetings and then your meetings. So can we get a little bit more about that?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Esparza-Straffigan. We look at the fall timeframe, so October, November, starting. There are some components that as you work with, as we work with balanced governance, through those pieces, there's some policy pieces as well already in regard to running community engagement meetings. And so as soon as those components are completed, that will drive the rest of the meetings. So we need to first take care of some of the current balanced governance policies that need to be updated. We're going to do that together, and then we'll move into these. And yes, I will clearly communicate to all of you if, hey, time out, the team, doesn't have the capacity to do this, or the schools themselves, because certain things, it's testing that's transpiring. But that is incumbent on us to clearly communicate to you of, yes, let's go full bore, or no, this is why, and that continual communication will transpire.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions? I would just like to make a comment before I open it for public comment. Just, things are proven through your actions, and so I can see us evolving as a team, and this isn't a demonstration between the 4 volunteers of the working group that we are headed in that direction, and I'm so proud, and that just our alignment with our superintendent and making sure that we support her in, and the deputies in the alignment of our strategic plan and our goals. So I'm like a happy mom on graduation day. So just thank you. Thank you for each one of you. Since we have no other questions, I'd like to open it up for public comment. If there's anybody that has not filled out a public comment card, please do so now. John, are you getting out? Oh, okay. So seeing none, then this is an action item. I would entertain a motion to approve the proposal presented to the trustees and work with the superintendent and her team for next steps. Is there anybody that would like to make that motion? Trustee Biasotti.
I would like to make a motion to approve agenda item 2.02, trustee community engagement meeting proposal.
Thank you. Trustee Henry.
I would like the second.
I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes 7-0. That moves on to our 2.03, our board committee quarterly reports. And so previously we had, I had assigned trustees to different board committees. I'm really excited about the engagement of each person. And so I'm going to ask each trustee to give a brief overview for the for each item. And so I'm going to start with Trustee Stevens. If you could both cover bond oversight and then debt management, and I'll ask Trustee Esparza-Straffigan also as well.
Awesome, thank you. So for the bond oversight, one of their biggest priorities coming up is taking a look at their bylaws. They want to make some edits. They want to go through that and then submit it to the board for approval. Hoping to see that in the next month or two. I know that's a big priority for them. A lot of the meetings that I've been to so far have been talking a lot about the capital improvement plan and some of the things that we're working on over the summer, and just trying to get, our ACs going over the summer. There's obviously big concerns that they're talking about. And then one of the things that I heard on the last one, which I thought was really interesting, because I listened to the district talk about all the different avenues that they take to ensure that when they're having these meetings in the public, to let folks in each area know, hey, these are the changes we're going to be making to your school, to your site. The committee was saying, well, I never got any information. It's not well attended. You're not sending it out to enough people or whatever. So while that was a concern from them, and the district was saying, well, we are doing these things, we're sending these things out, I did want to still bring it before the board, just so that you guys know that maybe, and I don't know what Joan is working on, as of right now in terms of communication, and maybe if that's something that can be done a little bit more effectively, or if some folks just don't check their emails, that could also be a thing, right? So as we look at this, that was definitely something that I heard the committee talk about, was, is there a way to get more communication out to the public when they're having these meetings about changes to their schools and their sites? And then, of course, like I said, they're going to be trying to update bylaws soon, and we should be seeing those in the next couple of months. And then in terms of the debt management committee, this is a pretty straightforward one. The very first meeting was the day after I was appointed, so showed up that morning, got sworn in. Trustee Ramona was there with me. She's been awesome. She's been a great shoulder to lean on as we kind of go through this process and learn it together. The next meeting was canceled, and then the next meeting is tomorrow. And we have a big item on there. It's about the school district. So I'll be very excited, hopefully, to bring you some great news about the outcome of that meeting at our next report. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Any questions for them? I know the big item is the $600 million bond. $600 million, yes, bond will be on there. So thank you. Trustee Cavazos, do you have a question?
I did. I wanted to ask, I wasn't clear, because I know that we had talked before about having the two representatives, and thank you both so much. I know we've had problems in the past that nobody really was that engaged, and both of you seem to be very engaged and doing a good job for us. So I wanted to get clear. So is only, Emily, are you the only one that is sworn in? Like, if you can't make it to a meeting, does Ramona take over, or how does that work? Because I will just tell you right now, I've never been a member of that committee, so I'd really appreciate knowing a little bit more information.
So this actually came up recently because I have to go out of town tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
But I am calling in to put in my vote because I am the only sworn in trustee. Now, we've looked at other solutions, other things that potentially could be done so that Trustee Esparza-Straffigan could fill in. As of right now, because we're on a time crunch, like it's tomorrow, right? The council basically said, if you could really get on the call. I'm like, yeah, no, I'll be on the ground at that point, so I can hop on the call. But in the future, I think I'm hoping we're looking at other opportunities, because Trustee Ramona here is incredibly astute in all of these areas, and we're cross-functional because I'm BOC and then she's facilities. And so it works really, really well And I'm so happy that she's in there with me. So I would love it if she could also be a sworn-in trustee, like if we could both do that together. It's just a matter of, it's either a matter of,
It's the NRS.
okay, it is the NRS.
So thank you, Trustee Stevens. I appreciate that support because I really like and want to say the reason why we are doing, I think, the two is because of the fact that we are overlapping and we're collaborating, as Trustee Stevens mentioned. So because she's over bond oversight, because I'm over master school facility, I'm messing that committee up, but it's going to come up in a minute. So because I'm over and representing as a trustee for that, I felt the need, and I requested from the president to be on the commission as well. And it's very, there's a big learning curve, I would say, for myself. I'm learning a lot, but it really goes hand in hand for me to be able to serve on that other committee. So I cannot vote, and I am basically auditing, which means like participatory, but I will be in the space tomorrow, and then Trustee Stevens will be able to vote, which is important for that item agenda. So thank you, Trustee Cavazos, for that clarification, because of NRS.
Okay, thank you both for that. I really didn't have that information, so that's really, that really helps a lot, and just so grateful for both of you being on that. Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you, Madam President. I had a question about the change of policy that bond oversight might be doing is, I know just from the past, we've heard that the policies were changed. Are you changing them back? Are you revising them?
Which policies?
Bond oversight.
You're talking
You
about
mean their board bylaws?
The bylaws, my apologies.
Yes,
The
Yeah, I
bylaws.
brought it up twice. They're working on it. They
Are
want to redo their bylaws, and then they want to bring them forward to us to approve.
Are they changing them back to where they were previous?
I don't know yet, I haven't seen.
Okay. And then I know there was another topic brought up by one of the committee members that about a security fence issue at a school. Was that resolved or?
So if I recall, that was out of the scope, am I correct? That was out of the scope of the bond oversight. So that was a committee member who's very passionate and means well, but that was out of the scope of bond oversight. So while it did bring in media coverage and while it did create a buzz, I know the district took it very seriously and looked into it, and I don't remember the outcome, I'm just gonna be honest. I know Brandon knows. But he's chilling in the back right now, but
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, thank
Can I
you.
jump-
Trustee Zamora?
Yes.
Vice President Zamora?
It's about the bylaws, because from my understanding is there's been conversations for about a year about changing the bylaws. They were never changed. And then now they're kind of restarting it again. So it's not going back and forth, it's just, it was never changed.
Thank you for that report. I'm going to go ahead and, I don't have anything for the Council of Great City Schools. I'm going to go to the Nevada Association of School Boards, Vice President Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I lost it, 1 second. So one of the updates that I just wanted to share is a thing that's coming up. Every year we celebrate our yearly conference with all the school board members. It's usually in December, but to prepare for this, we do awards for all the districts. So this year, usually what happens is the directors will get the list of, the categories, that's the word, categories. We actually work with the superintendent, so it's like administrative of the year, friend of the school district, usually goes to a media person. So we have already sent that over to our superintendent. We actually did get feedback to the previous interim superintendent too, for any suggestions they might have, recommendations for these awards. The ones that are left outstanding, basically, which is kind of on the directors for us to submit, are NASB Director of the Year. So I'm going to list them out if you all want to kind of keep your ear out. And if you have recommendations, please send them over to President Bustamante Adams or I. But it's NASB Director of the Year. We have the NASB Veteran School Board Member of the Year. This is for someone who has served more than one term. We also can submit for NASB New School Board Member of the Year, so in their first term. NASB Individual School Board Member of the Year. So this would be for someone who has served for over 2 terms. We also have NASB School Board Governance Team of the Year. These are for school boards who have been working really good with their superintendent and the district team, and I would love for us to submit something, so if you all have comments on that for our team, I think that would be great to add, because we do have to submit like a letter of why we're recommending this person, or the school board in this case. And then the last one is NASB Superintendent of the Year, also goes with a letter. If we want to submit that, please reach out if you have comments or things to add to the letter. And that's all the updates I have.
Thank you, Trustee, Vice President Zamora. For me, on NASB, there is a training opportunity for professional development coming up in September 6th. And then also the NASB annual conference on December 5th. And so our board liaison will send that information to you. Save the dates for your calendar. Next, we'll go to, yes, Vice President Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to add the deadline for the names for us to submit. It is on a very, very special day, so you all better remember. It's August 15, on my birthday. That's when we have to submit the names. If you submit it before, I would really appreciate it so I don't have too much work on the 15th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Trustee Cavazos, NIAA.
Thank you, Madam President. As a matter of fact, I just flew in from the NIAA meeting. I actually missed, we got a lot done yesterday. It's a 2-day meeting, and we have 4 meetings a year, so we just finished with one today, and I only missed, I think, a couple of hours. But we had a very busy agenda, and I'll just hit what Trustee Zamora did without going through the entire thing, because our agendas run anywhere, they're usually about 150 pages, sometimes close to 200 pages, and I think I left off on page 116 when I left. But some of the things that we covered, and I'll just kind of go through just some of them right here, is we have a consent agenda, just like we do here, but we have the option of going through each item individually on the agenda, on the consent agenda, but again, not as many as what we have here on our agendas. So we had, just to give you an example, we had 4 things on this consent agenda item, and they were like something standard, like the approval of the minutes, new football rules interpreter, lifetime pass request, sanctioning of the Great Basin Volleyball Officials Association. So we can go through that individually. We have a financial report every single quarterly meeting. And then again, just to kind of give you an idea, we have 13 liaisons, committee persons, and director reports, and these are usually people with the exception of Ms. Sloan and Mr. Jackson, who are the president and the executive director. These are liaisons that give reports, like say from the charter schools, the private schools, the different like 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, and they give reports, but they are non-voting members. We had a partnership update. We also have legal counsel. We did have a closed session, but our closed sessions are in the middle of our meeting. So basically, whoever's in the room that is not supposed to be there, we basically ask them to leave, have the closed session, and then we come back and we resume the meeting. So we also had a workshop yesterday, and that was a workshop/public hearing to solicit comments on proposed regulations. And just to give you an idea, this is all public. This had to do with membership dues, establishment and submission of schedules of events, registration of pupils having to do with rosters, scheduling of the games, appeals by pupils adversely affected by determinations having to do with appeals, and sanctioning of new sports by the association. And we did have competitive cheerleading that has been on the docket for some time and requested by many people, and that was sanctioned at yesterday's meeting. So I can tell you more about that later. So a lot of other things. We had items having to do with girls wrestling, spring realignment, postseason formats, trophies, award, and medal presentations, and bids on that. We did make a decision on that. That was a really tough one. And that's just some of the things that we went through. I left off when they were having basically a decision having to do with our new policy manuals, top 10 student athlete awards, and we also have something that's called the ejection report, where we have a coordinator of officials that we look at what is happening when we have incidents at games that involve athletes, parents, coaches, and that's just one of the things. So I wanted to be there for that. I'm always very interested in that, but wanted to catch a flight to be back for our meeting today. So that's just some of it, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Stevens?
So I got two quick questions. I have a lot of, I had quite a few constituents in the wrestling community, because it's near and dear to my heart, who were asking me a few questions that I wanted to get to you. One of which is, girls wrestling it was sanctioned here, I believe, at the last year, I believe it was sanctioned here as an official sport, and it is becoming one of the fastest growing sports in the country, which is amazing. You said you had an update on girls wrestling. I was wondering what that was.
Yes, and, sorry. Thank you for that question, Emily. Trustee Stevens, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
And basically, we had an update as far as presenting the girls' wrestling information, and I didn't bring the entire document because it was very heavy, so I just picked out the things for the report. But right now, the good news is that girls' wrestling had some of the highest numbers in participation, and we had one venue, and I'm trying to think which one it was, but it was something to where it basically superseded all of our other events, was right up there with football games, which has always been our highest. So that is, the data was in support of sanctioned status for girls wrestling. So
Amazing.
The item was to accept that.
Awesome. And then my second question was, there was an idea that was proposed to the NIAA about reducing the amount, and forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but it was reducing the amount of wrestlers who would be allowed to go to state, almost by half, which a lot of coaches were very nervous about, parents were nervous about, because it removes the ability for them to, get scholarships or have opportunities when you make it that much smaller. So I was just wondering if that was something that was on the agenda, was it voted on, because it was definitely discussed, questions asked.
Yes, we did have that on the agenda, and unfortunately, I didn't bring the notes on that particular item, but I would be glad to send it to the board, because we did have that item on the agenda. We did have a discussion, and a vote. And what takes so long sometimes is when we're going through this, we have to go through it, like 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, and we did have a discussion on that. I'll be glad to send that to you.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Straffigan?
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. That is a very active committee, and you often have to travel, so we appreciate you getting here to be a part of this meeting. My only question is, and I have not been up on this bill, do you have any updates on that one-time transfer? Did that go through where students are allowed to do that? Because that was not a practice that was in regulation. And it could be a follow-up if you want to give us that information another time, just because we get a lot of questions about it.
Yes, we did. And let me see if I brought that with me. We had quite a lengthy legislative update, but I don't think I brought that with me with all the board. With all the bill numbers, that did go through. Are you asking whether that passed? I do not know if the governor has signed it, but I do know that has passed. We have some things that have to get done by NIAA by October. Some of the things are things that we're already doing, but the legislature has set certain guidelines and certain timelines for us getting that done. But that probably would have to be a follow-up too. I really tried hard, but it was one of those days where my flight was delayed, and then they made it earlier, then they delayed it again, and then my lift didn't show up, and I want to do a public shout out to the Boys and Girls Club in downtown Reno, because one of their drivers gave me a ride to the airport, so I could get here today. So I will get back to you on that.
Thank you for being persevering. We will get a deep dive into the legislative session at our June 26th meeting. So that'll be our opportunity to take a deeper dive then. Thank you so much, Trustee Cavazos. Next, Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan on the Oversight Panel for School Facilities.
First, I want to thank the CCSD team. They completed with the consulting company so many community meetings. And I was in attendance in several just to kind of see the process. And also I participated as a constituent because I went to my neighborhood school. So thank you to them. It's a lot of work and a lot of hours. So where we are with everything, that has been completed. The survey was posted online and closed. We are going to receive a presentation on June the 12th. We will get those data results at that time from the team. And at this time, I was informed there are workshops to look and review and to consider all viable options, looking at the potential solutions coming before us. And our superintendent is working diligently with her team to do the workshops. The only other thing I wanted to say and remind everyone is if you want any other further updates, there will be additional community feedback sessions. It's going to be a loop back to share out some of the findings, and that will be happening, I believe, in the fall, possibly September. And Brandon said yes. And please go to fmp.ccsd.net on our website if you want any other additional information. It's there.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Cavazos.
I just wanted to commend our team for the work that they did. Sorry, Horace here from the meetings. But I know that there were a lot of meetings that didn't have a lot of people there, but the people that were there were invested in what was going on. They asked good questions, and thank you for plugging our website, Trustee, as far as the African, because a lot of people have said, oh, I meant to go to that meeting, or I didn't know about it, where can I get this information? And it's so handy to be able to just go ahead and give that to them. And they've actually come back and said, hey, I found the information. So thank you so much for that work. And I know that you went to a lot of those meetings.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez, Public Broadcasting Service and American Public Television.
Yes, thank you. I was grateful to be assigned to this. So I want to make sure I differentiate between Vegas PBS and the national brand. Vegas PBS operates locally under our oversight, so providing direct services to Clark County School District and Southern Nevada. And a lot of the services extend beyond television. The Board of Trustees actually holds the licensing for Vegas PBS. So I think that's really important. And so we also have Vegas PBS also manages the special needs resource library that I think it's really, if you guys haven't taken a tour, please take a tour next time we go for our board governance. That is, so it's a lot of adaptive learning materials that can be rented out by families. So, and if there are any families that have special needs kids, please visit the library. It's open to you. It is absolutely amazing resource. And then, so Vegas PBS plays an essential role in public safety. I want to make sure I'm expanding on what Vegas PBS does. So they do a lot of emergency communications, especially for our district, for CCSD PD, in case of a natural disaster, a failure, or some kind of emergency response where response is needed and video footage is needed quickly, communication is needed quickly, and so they provide that to our police officers. Okay. Oh, and they also work very closely with workforce development and early childhood learning and contribute directly to the district in that way. I think that's super important. And so the hot topic right now is federal funding. So I want to highlight that federal funding only represents about 12% of the Vegas PBS budget. Additionally, currently as we stand, Vegas PBS currently has a surplus and in savings from FY25 and is currently in good financial standing with a healthy savings reserves. So currently we're doing okay. We can ride through this. As an individual, I support the Trump administration's efforts to bring fiscal responsibility and accountability to public funding. However, Vegas PBS, under our local oversight, remains focused on educational services and emergency communications. And withdrawing federal funds could bring pressure to lower those things that they offer right now. So I want to make sure that I implore any listeners that want to go ahead and support by donating or listening, and it is viewers like you that go in and support PBS. I think I heard that.
You've been to the meeting. That's not the standard one.
I heard that probably 1,000 times. So yeah, so we the meeting was a lot different than I'm used to, and I appreciated it. There are a lot of opportunities for if you guys would like to come in and come to an event that they host. They host a lot of events as far as physical activity, donations, and also just bringing out the community. So there's a lot of things that PBS does, and I'll make sure that we share that as we go throughout the year. And there will be a letter coming out from Vegas PBS concerning the federal funding.
Thank you. Any questions for Trustee Dominguez? All right. Trustee Johnson, and I'm going to ask Superintendent Ebert as well, because I know that you are also invested in the Public Education Foundation. So if you have any comments. Trustee Johnson?
So the first meeting was a conflict with the schedule, so I am going to meet individually with the board president to get caught up. We don't meet again, though, until the board meets once a quarter. And so I won't be able to meet again with the board as a full board until October, which is when I think the next meeting is. Okay. But Superintendent Ebert, if you were able to attend that meeting, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you. Yes, I was able to attend with some staff. It was nice to be introduced to the entire board, Public Education Foundation. They were very interested in where we are heading as a district. I specifically provided an update in the 4 areas of, looking at an expanding pre-K, our reading components, our middle school math, and our college pathways. They have been an excellent, excellent partner with Clark County School District in making sure that our paraprofessionals have the support they need as they're going through the program to become educators. So that was nice to share and continue to lift up those components. And then also provided the overview in those components of doing an efficiency study for the Clark County efficiency and operational, if they were interested in fundraising for that component body of work that we need to do, as well as the literacy piece, and they are very interested in partnering with us moving forward. As public education is so very important to our entire valley.
Thank you. Any questions for our superintendent? Okay, then I'm going to ask Trustee Henry, the school name committee.
Thank you so much, Madam President. We haven't had a meeting yet for the school naming committee, but we do have a meeting July 8th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in this lovely room. So I would love for those who are available to join us.
Thank you so much. Trustee Dominguez?
Thank you, Trustee Henry. Could you possibly give us a very, very brief summary of how a school gets named or how it works?
Thank you for asking. I cannot because I have not attended a meeting yet. So I'm sure it's in bylaws or something somewhere.
That's fair, but I'm going to ask Trustee Cavazos, who is also on that committee, to chime in.
I can't top that answer. That's the best answer ever. We haven't had a meeting. We do have a meeting, as Trustee Henry said, on July 8th. And basically, there is a protocol and a process. It's on the website. And I believe, let me think here, I believe it's under the community link. Don't quote me on that. But the whole process is there laid out. And it involves an application. There are letters of recommendation, and there are specific protocols for the naming of elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And it lays all of that out. And so when folks ask me about it, they sometimes think it's just like, oh, we're just going to propose this. And sometimes our meetings are not about actually the naming of a school, but it can be the naming of a part of a school, like a multipurpose room or a weight room, or it can be a weight room, wrestling weight room. I know Emily would be interested in that. And we also have all different kinds of the parts of the schools that are named. And if you get a chance to come to one of these meetings, they are really great because the people that are making the nomination, they are always there in person. And a lot of times it is like for a memorial. And so bring your tissues because sometimes it can get very emotional. But they're really great meetings to come to, and they're very positive. So I look forward to being on this committee with Trustee Henry.
Thank you so much. Trustee
Thank you so
Henry?
much for that response. I appreciate it. And I'm
like
looking
yours.
forward looking forward to being on an uplifting committee.
All right, that ends our our item 2.03. I can see the evolution of the fact. This is the first time I've ever heard reports from the different committees, so it's very exciting regarding our engagement. It's not an action item, so we're going to move to 3.01. This is for public comment on items not listed as action items on the agenda. Is there anyone who did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? Going once, going twice, okay, closed. We do not have any public comment. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, June 12th at 5 p.m. here in this boardroom. I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Trustee Dominguez.
Madam President, I'd like to motion to adjourn this meeting.
Trustee Satori.
I second the motion.
I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. Oh, that motion passes 6-0. I do want to also say thank you to the trustees and staff who attended the 60-plus graduations and over 24,000 CCS students that got to participate in the ceremonies. Just want to express my gratitude. Every single graduation, we had one trustee at the minimum, sometimes more at each graduation. Thank you for making the students feel special and the parents and the other community members. So thank you. Have a good evening.